Hey guys, what's up? So I'm doing a video today about the job of a missileer. Now, this is a job, the word missileer has been used for both the job I'm going to be talking about today, which is the nuclear missile launch officer job, versus a missileer who is a munitions maintainer, which could be either enlisted or officer. But the job I'm talking about today is the actual nuclear launch control officer, and they're referred to as missileer. So you might be a ROTC cadet who just found out what job you're going to get, and you got missileer, and you're like, whoa, what's missileer? Or you might be going to OTS, and you got the job of missileer before you go, and you're like, whoa, what is missileer? So that's what I'm doing this video for, is to kind of give you some information on what a missileer is, what a missileer does, and that sort of thing. Now, I haven't done this job myself in about 12 years. The last time I pulled a missile alert shift was in 2010. So, but I will say that the job itself, when you're out there in the missile field, doesn't really change all that much. The change is very slow. You'll have some checklist changes here and there. So some procedures get changed, some new equipment may come out, but the overall job as a whole is very much the same as it's been done for decades. They have changed some of the schedules of when you would go on an alert. So we'll talk about some of that. For example, I'm going to describe what I did. The typical alert was 24 hours, so I'll cover a 24-hour alert. Then we went to 72-hour alerts for about a year or so, and then finally went back to 24-hour alerts. Now they're doing a new schedule since 2020, where they're going out for a week. They are coming back for a week for training. So you're out there in the field for a week, you come back, do training for a week, and then that third week, you have off. All right, so when I was in ROTC way back in the day, I heard about this job, missiles. And I'm like, what is missiles? First I thought, well, missiles are what go on planes. So you do something with these missiles that go on the wings of fighter jets or bombers. Didn't really think much of it. Actually, I didn't get the job missileer starting off as a lieutenant. The job I got right out of college as a second lieutenant was a communications officer, which now is a cyber officer. But I did that job for about a year. I thought it was kind of boring, and I started talking to people about this cool space job you could do. Now, a little bit of history. Back in the day, this has changed a lot, but back in the day, missiles and space was one job for the officers in the Air Force. It was called Space and Missiles as the short title of the AFSC. I really wanted to do space, so I'm like, I'm going to cross train from communications so I can do this space job. So I got the cross train approved, and I got to do space and missiles. I knew there was a good chance that I was going to have to do missiles first. I wasn't really crazy about that, but sure enough, I had to do missiles first. So there's a reason why space and missiles used to be the same career field. The reason they give is, well, nuclear missiles, these missiles, they go up in space, and space is a career field. So we'll have missileer and space be the same job, space and missiles. But really, the real reason they did that was a manpower thing. The missile career field, which is now 13N, the missile career field needed to have a lot of young officers like lieutenants and captains to do the missile job at the 3 missile bases. Now, after that first job as a missileer, they didn't really need that many people to be in the missile career field anymore, because the number of positions they had gets drastically smaller, because there just isn't enough positions for all of the people who are missileers to continue on to be, for example, DOs at a squadron or a squadron commander or something along those lines, or go to top hand or teach missiles in California. That gave us the perfect opportunity to switch into space, because space had the opposite problem. They had plenty of positions in space for older officers, captains, majors, lieutenant colonels. So that's what I did. Nowadays, if you are a missileer, and this actually still happens, so if you're a missileer now, once you're done with your first missile tour, maybe you'll stay missiles, maybe you won't, but you actually will you go up for maybe like what's more like a board, where you say, well, I don't really want to be a missileer anymore. I want to be maybe an intelligence officer, maybe a cop, security forces. Maybe I want to be, maybe I do want to be space. So you have to switch over to the Space Force now. Back to what is a missileer. So these aren't missiles that are on planes. A missileer is in charge of a flight area that consists of 10 ICBMs. So there you have a crew of 2 people underground in a launch control center that is responsible for 10 missiles in their flight area. These missiles, if they were needed to launch, primarily if we were launched upon by another country, by their nuclear missiles, we would want to launch our nuclear missiles before theirs get to us. So these missiles they're mostly fuel, but the tip of these missiles is a nuclear weapon. So the missile goes all the way up into space. It knows where it needs to be in space. Then it releases the RV, and the warhead will then start its process back into the Earth's atmosphere and hit the target it was intended to hit from space. So most of the missile is all fuel. It goes up, stages fall off, it goes all the way into space. By the time it gets into space, it's only about a 6 or 8 foot high thing, and it breaks off the warhead, and the warhead will go to its target using just gravity, which is amazing. These aren't self-guided missiles. They know where they need to be, and then gravity does the rest. Anyway, so you're in charge of 10 of these missiles, and you're in charge of the flight area that they belong to. So this is a flight area that has the LCC, which is where you're at, and up above you is what you call a MAF, which is a missile alert facility, which actually includes the LCC. So the MAF is where you're going to have your cops. It's going to be a very secure area. Cops are up there. You have a facilities manager up there. You have your chef up there to cook meals for everybody on site. And that's pretty much all the personnel up there in the MAF. And you are down below about, it depends on the site, 50, 60, 80 feet below ground. And you are monitoring these 10 missiles, waiting for the order to launch them at their intended targets. Now, thankfully, we've never had to launch these real world, so that's great. Hopefully, we will not have to launch these real world. So, what do? Just in general, you go out to the site, you get processed onto the MAF by the cops. Again, this is a very secure site. If you're not supposed to be out there, you are not going to be let on site at all. You talk to the FM, you talk to the chef, put in your order, make sure everything's good to go. Then you go over to where the FSC is. He will then process you, he will call the capsule to see if the capsule is ready for you, because you're not going to go downstairs in the elevator unless the capsule allows you to do that. So that is one of the other security measures we have. So if the capsule doesn't want you down there, you're not going down there. But anyway, the capsule can buzz you in. You go down a big elevator, you walk in, elevator goes all the way down to the bottom, you get out of the elevator, big blast door, open the blast door, step in, close the blast door. To your left is what we call the equipment building, where there's a diesel generator, things like that. Do some checks over there, then you go back across to where the actual capsule is. They will have opened the capsule door for you. This capsule door can only be opened from the inside, which is a good design, because if bad guys manage to get down there, they're not going to be able to get that door open anytime soon, because it only opens from the inside. All right, so then you go in there, you do your changeover checklist with the crew that's already there. This is stuff that you will all learn how to do when you get into training for this. The outgoing crew will leave after your changeover checklist is done. They'll get processed topside so they can head back home. You are now in charge of the flight area. After changeover, there are certain things you have to get done. When they leave, you have to do your own checks, daily checks, to make sure all your equipment is working. You have some things you need to do with the communications, because the communications are all encrypted. So you have to make sure that the daily crypto is loaded correctly. And once that's all done, you pay attention to your 10 missiles. And if anything's going on there, you might have maintenance at one of these missile sites. You need to make sure you're monitoring that. You are in charge again. As I said, there could be people on site doing something in those missiles. If you're also monitoring them, if any of the alarms go off, you need to send your security folks out to check out those alarms. Those are called security situations. So you need to be aware of that. So you always need to be aware of those missiles. And if it comes to it, you can actually monitor all 50 missiles in your squadron. You're being in a flight area. There are 4 other flight areas in your squadron, meaning there are 40 other missiles, along with your 10 leads 50 missiles. There are 3 squadrons per wing, so a base would have 150 missiles. Now, these missiles are part of the nuclear triad. This is something that, some people might know about, some people might not know about. So the nuclear triad is one of our national defense strategies. So as far as nuclear missiles go, the triad, per the name, has 3 things. So one of the things is ICBM. So I'm just explaining those to you now. Second thing is submarines, SLBM, submarine launched ballistic missiles. Kind of like an ICBM, but it gets launched from a submarine, a little different. And the third one is your regular bomber aircraft that can have nuclear missiles on it. So that's a nuclear triad. You have your ICBMs, you have your SLBMs, and then you have your regular nuclear munitions that can be loaded up onto an aircraft. So what kind of bases can you go to with being a missileer, you ask? So the training to be a missileer is at Vandenberg Space Force Base in the beautiful hills of wine country in California, on the coast of California. It's very beautiful there. The base is just a little bit north, maybe like 45 minutes to an hour north of Santa Barbara, which is one of the most beautiful areas in the country. So that is where your training will be for about, 6 months or so. I'm not sure. I think it was 5 months when I was there. I'll teach you pretty much everything you need to know about being a missileer. Then at some point, you'll get your assignment. You'll get your assignment to one of those 3 bases. You get assigned to Malmstrom Air Force Base, which is in Montana, Minot Air Force Base, which is in North Dakota, or F.E. Warren Air Force Base, which is in Wyoming, a couple hours north of Denver, actually. Those are the 3 bases you could get to go to as a missileer. All right, let's talk about shifts. The typical shift when I was a missileer was 24 hours. You'd get up in the morning, you'd go to the base, you would check in at your squadron area, you'd have a briefing about what maybe something was going on that day. Then you'd have a big briefing with everybody that's going out to the missile field that day. You might need to pick up rations. You might need to get food for the crew that's out there, things like that. So you pick that up. You and your crew partner will go out to the missile site to change over with the crew that's already there. Now, these could take from 45 minutes up to a couple hours, maybe even 3 hours to get to the site. They're very spread out. All right, so the kind of vehicles we would take out were typically like F-150 truck, some kind of a Ford truck, especially if we needed to take out rations. But then later on, we got these Ford Edges, like a crossover SUV, and that got maybe better gas mileage, I'm not sure. I don't know what they're driving these days, but that's what we drove back in my time. So you're gonna load up the vehicle with your rations, get all your stuff for the next 24 hours, head on out to the site. As I said, you get processed onto the site, talk to the FM, talk to the cops, make sure everything's good to go downstairs, change over, and you're there for 24 hours. So you're watching the flight area. Anything squirrely pops up, you get into your checklist to respond to it. You could have lights go out, so you do circuit breaker reset. You could have weird indications at one of your LFs, so you go to your checklist to see what to do. But most of the time, it is very quiet, especially if you're there on the weekends. Very quiet. And a lot of people get their master's degree done, like doing distance learning, because they actually have computer access down in the capsules. So there's that. You can just sit there, watch TV, and just chill out if you want. There's a lot of downtime in that 24 hours. At any point, while you're down there with your crew partner, doors closed, everything's secure, one of you can be asleep in the bed mod. So during that 24 hours, you split it up however you want to split it up. Typically, what I would do it is we get out there, get some lunch. The crew commander would go to bed for a few hours, wake up maybe around 6, eat some dinner. Then after dinner, the deputy crew commander would go to bed from probably like 8 or 9 to about 6 in the morning. And then the commander would go back to sleep from 5 to like 9. And that's when you need to wake up to make sure everything's ready for the oncoming crew. So then you get the next crew in around lunchtime and you process back home. And that basically takes up 2 days. It's a 24-hour alert, but it takes up 2 days because you get up in the morning one day. By the time you get home the next day, it is about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Pretty much nothing left to do that day, or pretty much at the end of the workday. So that takes up 2 days. Third day, you can't go out an alert, but you can the fourth day. So every 3 days, you could have an alert. Typically, the number of alerts you would pull in a month is 8. The nickname was 8-0 Joe. And in between those off days, we had to do testing. So we did testing on our weapon system, just making sure we know how all the equipment responds. And in the field, we needed to have a test on EWO, which is emergency war orders. That's the part of the job where you actually launch the missiles. And then once a month, we need to do a trainer ride. So you get with your crew commander, you go to a mock-up of the capsule, and there's a whole script they give you, and you need to make sure that you can respond to all these different events. It's a very highly trained job. You definitely know what you're doing. Once you start doing it for probably 6 months, it gets really, really easy because you've seen almost everything, and it's a piece of cake. In fact, some people have been known to do checklists without opening the checklist because they've memorized it. You don't do that, but I've known people to do that. Not me, I would never do that, but I've known some people who have because they know it so well. After I was working as a missileer for a few years, one of the generals that was in charge of us had a great idea that we should do a 72-hour alert. So 72-hour alerts changed the whole thing. Instead of going out one day, coming back the next day, you're going out and then you're out there for 3 whole days, and then you come back on that fourth day. So it ends up eating up 4 days right there. And but instead of having 2 people out there, they put a third person out there. So what that means is 2 people are in the capsule and the third person is upstairs getting rest. So what I would usually do when this happened is, so I wouldn't throw off anybody's clock, I would just break the day into 8-hour shifts since there are 3 of us. So one person is responsible for sitting at the console monitoring the missiles for 8 hours. Another person is going to do 8 hours in the bed mod at that time, and the third person is going to be upstairs for 8 hours resting. They will rotate, so each day you're doing the same 8-hour shift. Some people did 12s, so you would have 12-hour shift, and that would just throw you off every day. You're doing something, you're awake at a different period of time. Anyway, this was universally hated. Nobody liked the 3-day alerts, the 72-hour alerts. And as quickly as they came, one day they were just gone, and we went back to 24-hour alerts. Now, what I have researched and read on what's currently the way that they do this job is ever since COVID hit in 2020, they wanted to minimize interaction because you're interacting with 2 different crews, the crew that you changed over with, and the next day the crew that changes over with you. So there's a lot of close contact interaction in an area that does not have a lot of airflow. So their idea was that they would go out as a whole unit, as a squadron concept for a week. So from what I can tell, they go out on a Tuesday, for example, and they'll be out for that whole week until the next Tuesday. And you're going to go out with the FM and the chef, 4 crew members. Each set of crew members could take a 24-hour shift. You do the alert, you go up topside for a day. You do the alert, you go up topside for a day, and that happens for a week. Maybe that's how they do it. I don't know. They can figure out how they want to do it. Then the next week they do training. So it's a week out in the field, a week back where you do training. You also have to take evaluations periodically, and you might need to support someone who's taking an evaluation. Then that third week is off, apparently. So it's like work out in the field for a week, come back, train for a week, where you're going to come into work every day and do whatever training you need to do or whatever they need you to do. And then that third week, you just stay home. That's what I figured it is. So that's kind of good. You can have that whole week off. You're working pretty hard for 2 weeks, but then you have that week off. So maybe they like it. I don't know. I don't think I would like it very much because you're away for a whole week. But that appears to be how they do it now. And that's how they've been doing it since 2020. So overall, the job is pretty good. I do like the job. One of the things that I liked about it is you didn't have anybody breathing down your neck. You were in charge out there. I also like the fact that I was doing the job. I was putting my hands on the switches and knobs and all that sort of thing. and actually doing the job, not just sitting back and telling someone what to do, but I was actually doing the job, which I liked. And I liked the downtime, because when it was slow, it was slow. When it was fast, it was fast. You also got to wear a flight suit, which was kind of cool. Kind of the opposite of flying, you're underground, but we got to wear flight suits while being missileers. Well, that pretty much covers the job of missileer, which is the job 13N. There are also opportunities beyond being a missileer in the 13N career field. After you do your job, you could potentially go to another base and serve in one of their shops. And once that's done, you can go to Global Strike Headquarters in Barksdale Air Force Base, Louisiana. You can go to Top Hand in California, really launching the missiles for real, without nuclear weapons, of course. Just launching the missiles to make sure they hit what they're supposed to hit. All right, well, if you guys have any questions, let me know. And whatever content you might be interested in hearing about, you can let me know that as well. And thank you everyone for watching my video. If you made it this long, I really appreciate it. And you all have a great day. I'll see you later.